Welcome to Scotland.
Tension. Hypertension. Johnny. Comma. Never mind. I know it's hard to believe now, but back in the day, we thought these graphics looked so real.
What?
During the 5th generation of consoles, full 3D gaming was still new, God help me, but it was. We had 15 to 20 frames per second if we were lucky, we had particle effects that were plush and shiny, and those realistic facial textures, huh? As funny as it is now, computers in the mid-90s were still kind of fringe, usually a tool for businesses or people using them for work, like journalists and stuff like that. Using a computer for gaming was even more curious, unless you had a dad that was into it or a cool single uncle with a rig, the average kid was likely gaming on a console. So when Goldeneye launched in '97, most of us hadn't played a lot of PC FPSs, and even the ones that I had played were pretty common, Wolfenstein 3D and a little Doom. I hadn't played Duke 3D yet, and Quake needed a Pentium processor to run. This would have set you back nearly $500 in 1996. Adjusted for inflation, that'd run you a cool grand in 2026. The point is, sneaking through a vent, aiming at the stall underneath, and taking off a fella's hat with a bullet was mind-blowing, man. Even if you weren't around for this, if you play video games nowadays, you've likely felt the impact of Goldeneye in something that you enjoy. I can only imagine how many game developers grew up huddled around the warm glow of a CRT TV, blasting their mates in 4-player split screen well into the night. But alright, let's speed it up. For all my happy reminiscing on Goldeneye, there were many other Bond games from the same generation that I barely played. 007 Racing? Never played it. Tomorrow Never Dies? I rented it once. The World Is Not Enough, or TWINE as the cool kids call it, had 2 distinct versions on the PS1 and the N64, of which I only tried the PlayStation port, again on rental, and I remember nothing about it. Initially, I thought a Goldeneye review would suffice, but it wasn't going to be enough. So, here we go. This is part 1 of a big multi-part review series where I cover Bond games from several generations, starting with the 5th. I won't be covering the Atari, DOS, Amstrad, ZX Spectrum, MSX, Auric, Master System, GBC, Macintosh, Commodore, or Genesis games because, I'd like to have this thing done in the next eon. Oh, come on. If that pun doesn't get you to hit the like button, I don't know what to do. So this wasn't the first of the Bond games on the PlayStation, we'll discuss that one next, but I had to talk about this turd before anything else. Okay, so perhaps that's a bit harsh. Quite frankly, I've always heard how bad 007 Racing is. Tales of rage-inducing madness thanks to the poor controls coupled with slipshod audio and terrible graphics. Well, some of that is true. Most of it. So I don't normally cover games sequentially, but this game took me a little over an hour to beat, so in this instance, I'm just gonna run through it as is. After the totally cool and radical opening montage of movie clips featuring vehicular highlights, we go to the menu, naturally. Oh, God. Never mind the charming menu of Goldeneye with the file folders and Brosnan's handsome mug. We get this hideous blue thing. Some generic grid overlay and an unraveled globe. Man, the corners have been cut. Your first mission is to rescue Charisse Light and escape over the border. So, Bond has to abduct a lady and jump the border. That's some race. We then get a super compressed version of the legendary gun barrel sequence. Now pay attention, kids. This is how we used to get videos before YouTube. But then, holy moly, the warp, the wobble. If you replaced your ocular muscles with that sticky slap hand toy from the gumball machine, you'd see like this. Wow. Then the driving starts, and the game engine is a modified version of the one that developer Technics used in Test Drive Le Mans on the Dreamcast, and I emphasize modified because, Technics was the developer that made those other racing games, you know what I mean? Ford vs. Chevy, Hummer Badlands, and Big Mother Truckers, a game whose commercial I wish I could forget.
Who's your daddy?
Why you keep asking that? You're my cousin, not my daddy.
Yep.
So, Technics does have a racing pedigree of sorts. The first thing I need to do is rescue Light. Friendly advice, don't use missiles on her. So you pick her up like Crazy Taxi, but lazier. Lazy Taxi. And eventually you fight a chopper with a Stinger missile out of your Aston Martin DB5, a car I love immensely thanks to growing up on Bond. You know, when I make real money someday, I'm not going to boast, but there will be signs. The sign will be me in a DB5 throwing paint on you while you bike to work like a peasant. Ha ha! Yeah! Then a pre-rendered cutscene plays and we see old Chip Hazard rubber-faced Bond impress a lady by eliminating a bunch of nondescript Europeans with an oil slick. You know, the ultimate aphrodisiac. I guess you could say this gave her a slick. And look at this dystopian skyline. I guess we're at MI6, aka the Fortress of Doom over here. The Brosnan and Dench impressions aren't half bad. They're not half good either, but whatever.
007. Upon your return, a new crisis has arisen. We are facing a major threat to global stability.
Ah, New York, New York, the city that evidently had 4 trade centers in 2000. Ah, conspiracy. Your objective is to jettison a bomb-carrying vehicle into the river. Which river? The. Oh, give me a break. Aha, the break pun. Oh, and listen to this cheesy Simon Gruber knockoff here.
The welcome gift is your car, to ensure your arrival is celebrated in a most explosive manner.
Alright, so there is a plot in 007 Racing, by the way, an original story no less. Tell you what, here's the synopsis. A vaguely European bad guy ships weapons to other bad guys around the world in cars. Amazing.
Hey, Jimmy. Looks like you're in a bit of a pickle. Now get the car to Hudson Bay Harbor and jettison it in the river before she blows.
Jack Wade, the American CIA character, makes an appearance. I have always hated this character. In general, I can't stand belligerent people with tropical clothing and cigars, all red-faced and with poor perfusion. It's not the late Joe Don Baker's fault, he just played his role, but it's always bothered me that this was how the US was represented to an international audience. The gameplay here is simply picking up transmitters before you blow up, basically a combination of the movie Speed and the Harlem level in Die Hard on PS1. And you know what? In these more open environments, this is actually kind of fun. The weird, blocky Lego people can't be run over, thankfully, and the sense of speed is pretty decent. I actually enjoyed this. Bond has some gadgets from Q Branch, though they're pretty limited as the game is so short. The staples include a bulletproof shield, a smoke screen, and an oil slick. Now, the game has become a mix of Destruction Derby and Twisted Metal, and even though I love both of those games, this part is just silly. Enemy cars try to crush you while little foot troop goons pepper you with small arms. Your machine guns do nothing against the enemy cars, so you need missiles. But since the enemy cars are always on you, your own splash damage will be the death of you. So reverse hard and fire away. Then these supercharged forklifts come around, and you have to angle yourself in the path of explosive boxes to take them out, since missiles don't work. Yes, the forklift, well known as missile-proof. It's not the worst thing I've ever played, it's just rough and a bit clunky in such a tight space. Also, have a listen to the menacing music. Ooh, nothing more threatening than Crash Bandicoot. Oh, and speaking of audio, turn down your volume.
That's years' worth of patient research wasted. Terribly disappointing, 007.
Ow! Good heavens, Q? The finale of the ambush stage is collecting an EMP weapon, which in this game is apparently an arc of lightning. You line up your car with multiple computers and zap them until they explode. I mean, alright. The car easily overshoots when you brake or accelerate, so nailing your position is a bit finicky but not terrible.
007, pursue and neutralize the transport.
Lord! A bit louder, M. People in New Zealand might have missed that. So your objective in Highway Hazard is to destroy the tires on this transport vehicle driven by Whisper, a baddie from Live and Let Die. I always love when an original Bond game brings back some minor villains and gives them a shine. Well, sometimes. At the end of each mission, you get a ranking. You have to meet a minimum percentage to pass, which is kinda corny, but I never got a failing grade, so I guess I can't whine. Actually, I can. Now we get the BMW Z3. Look, with respect, I'm sure it's a smooth ride, and all the gals that work reception at the veterinarian clinic love it, but this car looks like garbage. Not as ugly as this cheap-looking arcade cabinet loading screen, Jesus.
You don't have your health, 007, you don't have anything.
Every time one of your mates chimes in, the music completely stops and then abruptly resumes without any ramp-up time, and let me tell you, they chime in constantly. But I'll say that after hearing all the horror stories of 007 racing over the years, I was surprised at how much I had been enjoying the game up to this point. It's not good, let's be clear, but I was sort of waiting for the really bad stuff to kick in. In the level Airstrike, you basically destroy a bunch of stuff and rescue Robbie Coltrane. You drive around planting limpet mines and sending Stinger missiles at a few watchtowers. Okay, I'm pretty sure I was out of range, but alright. Dude, it's so funny seeing Bond and Zukovsky driving away in a convertible, side by side, top down, off to get a totally plutonic orange Julius. I think Zukovsky wants to show Bond his new toy.
It's big and black.
Again, some of this might be very clunky, but you got the thumping EDM/trance music, you're bounding rapidly from target to target, destroying stuff. I was kind of getting a nostalgic whiff of Warhawk, and that's never a bad thing. And whoa, look at the size of their heads. The size of them. Well, Brosnan is Irish. Hey! All in all, I would say that Escape is my favorite level, and it's the only one in the game that actually has a kind of sort of race. As you collect the items, you're racing against a female character towards the finish line. Also, I'm 99% sure this is supposed to be Xenia Onatopp, and that looks like the Ferrari GTS, but the game never says it's her. I don't know if they're trying to be coy. After all, she was squeezed, at the end of Goldeneye. Oh well, who cares? This level is pretty fun. Oh, and by the way, there goes Robbie and Pierce, floating merrily downstream, and whoa, there's Xenia. Unfortunately, this is followed by Breakout, which is a level that basically sucks. You're controlling your car remotely while using factory security cameras to get your bearings. The remote-controlled car is a reference to Tomorrow Never Dies, and that's great and all, but, you know, just when I was starting to enjoy 007 racing, this level had to come along and be itself. The remote control stuff is clunky, the security cameras will sometimes cut out, that's a riot, and these, I don't know, toy cars get in your way? I'm really looking forward to not playing this ever again. Oh, but River Race is worse. You race along a dirt road, you collect missiles, and you dodge mortars launched by Jaws from a speedboat. Yes, really. You have to tear ass to the end of the stage and get on a bridge where the missile launcher is located. The speedboat comes your way, and you have to move the extremely slow reticle over the boat and take it out. The reticle starts in the position based on which way your car was facing when you stopped, so you better hope you lined up right, or the boat will make good its escape. Oh, Christ. Yeah, that wasn't enough. The boat takes like 5 or 6 missiles to destroy. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you, this one had me sighing with extra oomph. You know, theatrical, not but funny enough, this level was my highest score in the game. Oh, dear Jesus of Nazareth, look at those Toy Story-ass graphics. In the mission download, you, wait for it, download data. Now you're driving the BMW Z8. It's maybe 3% less fruity than the Z3. You know, I have to say, the graphics in this game might look abominable overall, but I really, really love the orange-blue sky over New York City here. It's like jazz festival weather, but without the pretentious music kids talking about jazz while you're trying to listen. Sadly, that's the best thing about this level. You have to hover near a black car to download its data wirelessly, but if you go outside of the invisible download bubble, you have to re-engage. However, if you get too close, the car will get spooked or something, and you have to go find another car, all while the timer is just burning away. Thankfully, with a bit of patience, it gets done. But again, you've noticed something, haven't you? Not a whole lot of racing in 007 Racing. Do you know how much better this game would have been if the devs had modeled this off of Diddy Kong Racing? Oh, can you imagine how excellent that would have been? Yeah, well, too bad. Now we're driving the Lotus Esprit like the spy who loved me, and I have always loved this car. It's like a slice of old England before, well, and along with the car, we get into the silly Bond stuff, and in a game like this, the sillier the better. You use the IR goggles to dodge lasers in this underwater layer. The lasers don't appear to have a pattern, so I kind of just bombed through into the center. You rescue Dr. Chase by smashing through glass and picking her up like an escort in GTA before planting a bomb in the center, before then speeding away. The escape sequence is pretty to look at, plenty of colors and shiny things, but to be frank, and you can keep being you, I was hitting that point where I just kind of want to finish the game and move on. Fortunately for me, the final level is right now. The objective in Showdown is to prevent Light from releasing the deadly virus. What deadly virus? Yes, that joke once again. But really, they couldn't be bothered naming it. You have to ram the 4 engines of this jet to prevent it from taking off. Again, I love the Lotus, and the setting very much has a final level feel, but god damn it, I wanted to be done with this. It took me a few tries because you have to stay right on an engine lest you get blasted with wash and the jet escapes. When you do finally manage to get all 4, the jet turns around and it's time to take out the wheels with a missile. Again, it looks cool and all, just make sure to get out of the way. After the fight, the Lotus becomes submersible, and these 2 plastic dolls prepare to smash bits for 12 hours. The end. Thank goodness. And if you think this low-effort cash-in has anything else, you're wrong. Well, it says 2-player mode, but come on. However, I did find something. In the cheat menu, on the cheats you haven't unlocked yet, you get these bizarre CGI Bond girl cutscenes where these hot women taunt you for not having the cheats, followed by some vague clue on how to unlock them. So, that was 007 Racing, and it's a cheap cash-in. I know from EA that's shocking, but honestly, I was expecting much, much worse. Don't get me wrong. It's not a good game, and I said some foul words a time or two, but really, I was thinking it would be one of those things that I couldn't even finish based on what I've heard over the years. But you know, some of the stages were alright, a few of them were even decent, and I had several unintentional laughs. I actually bought the disc, as I like collecting Bond games, and for $5 I didn't feel cheated. However, the game was $30 on release in 2000, which hovers around $50 plus in 2026. $50 for an hour of C- gameplay is insane. And if your game is going to be short, the campaign should have replayability or at least be thoroughly competent.
Mission failed.
The Tomorrow Never Dies game is a curious case. Not only was it the first Bond game on the PlayStation, but it was a follow-up to Goldeneye. That's like being a garage band that's going on after King Crimson. Like, good luck. However, that doesn't mean that it couldn't have been just as good or better than Goldeneye. Was it? No. The really interesting factoid about Tomorrow Never Dies is that the game was originally being developed as a follow-up to the 1997 film, as opposed to a simple recreation. They even filmed the commercial with the definitive Q actor, Desmond Llewellyn, hyping the game as an action-packed follow-up to the movie. The game was originally set to release in fall of '98, and I think this concept could have been wonderful. EA would go on to find great success with the original game story formula with Agent Under Fire and Nightfire, but here they took their cues from focus group playtesters. The focus group whined that they wanted the game to be more like the movie, and thus the team was instructed to do just that. Oh, I'm sure the team loved that meeting. So the game was delayed and the story ended up being shifted around to be more in line with the film. Like 007 Racing, TND starts with a totally rad late 90s montage. Neato. The story is delivered through some pre-mission briefings and some post-mission movie clips. You'll be hearing a lot of fake Dame Judi Dench.
007, satellite reconnaissance has located a military outpost on the Russian border.
The actress's voice is a bit heavier than Dench, but the inflections are okay. I mean, I guess I knew who it was supposed to be. The film clips are spliced in after missions, and while I suppose it's cool to see the quote-unquote real version of the segment you just played, I would much rather have seen what the developer, Black Ops Entertainment, had written as an original follow-up instead. The clips are cool, and despite being a big downgrade from the movie Goldeneye, Tomorrow Never Dies is still a fun, loud James Bond flick, and Pierce Brosnan was my Bond growing up, so I have a lot of nostalgia and love for his 007 movies, even though outside of Goldeneye they're all pretty terrible. But as far as these clips go, like, I could just go watch the movie, you know what I mean? And so could you, so I'm not gonna run down every intricacy of that plot. Here's a quickie. Elliot Carver, played by Jonathan Pryce, this guy from Pirates of the Caribbean, or is it Caribbean? It doesn't matter. Carver is a media mogul obsessed with being the main source of news around the world. He wants to control all the newspapers and even launch his own satellite TV station. Yeah, so it's a little dated, but the idea of a megalomaniac wanting to control the narrative in the news we receive is... I mean, it's so relevant now that it actually hurts. Do I even need a clever quip? So, China denies Carver's network a platform in their market. They will be the ones to control their own populace, thank you very much. So Carver wants to cause international incidents and stir a war between China and the West with the goal of eliminating the people in China's high government, get his broadcasting permission, and be the ultimate source of news worldwide. The plot is a little goofy to say the least, and I wouldn't necessarily consider Carver an imposing bad guy, but as they say, the pen is mightier than the sword, and again, this plot is 10 times scarier 30 years later. Oh, and on a side note, Paris Carver lived in this game's retelling. Guess you can't keep discount Lois Lane down. The story is more or less told in bite-sized pieces throughout the game, but if you really want to see more of the plot, watch the movie. Let's talk about what really matters here, and oh boy. Alright, there aren't going to be any surprises, quite frankly. It's a third-person action game on the PlayStation 1. You really have to set your expectations accordingly. You've been warned. The movement is stiffer than young Johnny watching the late-night scramble channels, you know what I'm saying, but thankfully you can remap your buttons the way you want them, which was really nice. Shooting with face buttons is pretty rough anymore, so I mapped the left and right triggers to lock on and shoot, which helped the game feel a little bit more modern. Bond here moves a bit like Gabe in Siphon Filter, which isn't half bad, and once I mapped the strafe buttons to the shoulders, I felt comfortable enough with the controls. The weapon selection is dependable. You have the Walther PPK, of course. I mean the PK7 for legal purposes. Eventually, Bond does get the more modern Walther P99, the one that Brosnan is holding on the cover. Although the in-game model is still the PK7, so, you know. But I gotta say, I'm so glad that they didn't nerf the Walther here. In most video games, getting down to your sidearm is akin to a death sentence, but in TND, you're good to go at close to medium range. The AK-47 is probably the most fun weapon to use, with plenty of stopping power and good range. I also love how Bond will one-hand this thing while strafing. The dude must have the grip of a chimp, because this kind of strength is ridiculous. No wonder the guy has to mate so often. If he pumps himself off, he's in danger of becoming a eunuch. Christ. Anyway, the AK is your standard shooty blam blam, but it's fun and it has some somewhat dependable accuracy. I say somewhat because the lock-on mechanic in this game can be awfully finicky. If I'm being impolite, it likes to shit the bed on occasion. It works a good 80% of the time, but the other 20% will be spent with you saying, no, not him, no, why would I aim at the civilian instead of, no? I grew up during this era, so I was able to embrace the jank, but again, set your expectations accordingly. Sniping on the PS1. Ah, yes. You know, as someone who's beaten both Sniper Wolf fights a few dozen times each with a D-pad, the sniping in Tomorrow Never Dies isn't half bad. It's still PS1 sniping, let's be clear. You need to hold the first-person button to use the scope. The first-person command also works for your regular weapons as well, although I didn't use it often. The rest is pretty self-explanatory. Oh, and he clips right through the tower. Oh, Lord, how I miss the PS1. There's also the infrared sniper. It's the same thing, only in red. I did get a good laugh out of the enemy AI bombing right towards you like a kamikaze. The MAC-10, or SMG-45 as they call it, is another fun little blaster, decent in tight quarters. Then we have the fully automatic Glock. The Glock 18 is never not fun to use in games. Yes, that was a double negative. Call the cops, you pedantic ass. The point is, everyone loves making digital brass rain. The AL-66 rocket launcher isn't anything amazing, but it's always fun to let rockets rip, as are grenades. You get the GL-40 late in the game, and it's a good time watching the glowing orange pixels erupt from the site of impact. On the opposite end of the explosive action is a bit of stealth. Kinda. You can crouch walk, and I was pumped at first. You may know I'm a big stealth fan, so let's try it out. Oh. I've taken down the enemy silently, yet the alarm blares to life. How? Why? No idea. But if you smoke everyone in the area, the alarm retires, so... But still, sneaking around as Bond is... There's just such a charm to that, you know? Even when it's not particularly good. And you can actually do stealth takedowns as well. It's just that the majority of the game is designed with action first in mind, so this concept is super underbaked. I hope like crazy that 007 First Light incorporates a bit more sneaking, given the pedigree of the developer. Then again, I've had my heart broken before. And you can tell, you know, the AI reactions and pathfinding are miraculous here. Really stellar stuff. I like how this bloke is like, yeah, just another workplace shootout at the print media place. Yeah, maybe he worked at Charlie Hebdo previously. Unfortunately, objectives in TND are pretty much boring. I mean, take a few pictures of weapons. Laser designate a satellite for a missile strike. Whoa, that's danger close there, guy. Then the game gives you a puzzle. You move a filing cabinet to open a painting like we're in Spencer Mansion. I can't say that it's the most thrilling thing ever, but it's a cute little environmental thing. I just thought, what if a random cleaning lady was doing her thing and she dropped her contact lens or tincture of speed and needed to move this cabinet? Oh god, escorting in 007 game. After my recent time with Silent Hill 4, I wasn't keen on this, but you know what? Paris Carver here, alive and well apparently, sticks close and no damage comes to her, so I really cannot complain. But you're not always on your feet. I've heard a lot of hate for this level, and much like with 007 Racing, I was bracing for the absolute worst. Well, with respect, it must suck to be so average because I dominated this level. Boom! And you can do tricks too. Haha, hell yeah! Hey, don't worry about those tibias. Bond sips milk on the regular. Man, all of those hours of Cool Borders 2 is paying off now. And it ends with a Union Jack glimmering in the sun. You know, I love my bros from out that way. I love that flag. I hope you love it too. Oh, there's another skiing level too. Wait, Hokkaido? Does this level have any hallway RNG on expert? So the first skiing level was fun, but goodness me, this one stinks. It is funny to splat into a rock like Wile E. Coyote though. But the rest of this is just a cluster of nonsense. Who are these elite uniformed ski master assassins? Do you try out for the team? Like, Bond's only defense is his ski poles. So instead of using, you know, a gadget or his Walther, he has what amounts to shooing pigeons off the stoop. Go on, you pest, get! Front flipping into your demise. Jesus. Oh well, I wouldn't say that this level got me hot, but the piss was definitely beginning to simmer. How about something with some more power? Bond gets the L-39 fighter like he does in the movie. Normally, I'm not a fan of turret sections, but this was a nice little power trip, and even though I would have liked to have seen the original game they had cooked up, this part is alright. But what would a Bond game be without access to the cars and the gadgets? Well, it would pretty much be this game. In the Swiss Alps, Bond meets with Q and gets his 750i BMW, and off we go. So you chase a convoy of baddies. You have your standard machine gun missile combo to take out the cars. It's pretty lame, and the cars drop mines like they're bleeding bananas in Mario Kart. The beamer controls well enough, but here's the problem. The health that you have before the chase is the health that your car has when you start driving. I mean, like, really? You pick up health packs while driving, but hey, to the guy that made this decision, you some kind of jerk or something? Alright, maybe it's not that bad. There's a heavy Jeep, a weak wagon, and a final missile truck that you basically just have to tank out. And that's it for the whole game. I hope you enjoyed the car for a brief minute. I really wish they could have incorporated the motorcycle scene from the movie, but I'm sure they didn't have the time or the budget. Hey, at least they let you grind bad guys in the printing machine like in the film. Suppose that's something. Even more disappointing than the car stuff are the gadgets, or lack thereof. Bond uses sticky mines and a camera. Woohoo. But that could be in any game. Where's the Q branch stuff? Well, he gets cufflinks that destroy this window to escape the interrogation room. Did he superheat the window? Did it act like a bomb? Don't know. I guess that was okay-ish. And then you have a fingerprint scanner. You click on a door and it opens. Holy moly, I feel like Bond. This leads into the boss fight with Satoshi Isagura.
Satoshi Isagura.
So we gotta talk about the boss fights. Come on. Dr. Kaufman, no, not Silent Hill, is a straight up shootout in this hotel suite. He throws wing sticks like in Rage, and you basically just strafe and tank him out. It's honestly not bad. Nothing amazing, but not frustrating or anything. The same cannot be said for Satoshi Isagura.
Satoshi Isagura.
This fight is pure grade A, unfiltered bullshit. I nearly had to stop and go for a walk into traffic. This fight sucks. You run around this small room where he throws nerve gas your way and they just destroy you in seconds. Meanwhile, Sagura can stand there and just breathe this crap in no problem. And there's no pattern, it's just whatever. Oh, and if you fail and have no extra lives, guess who gets to do the level from the start? You do! Strafe and tank, pray for the best, yippee. In the stealth boat fight, you fight Mr. Stamper, the most German-looking German guy I've ever seen. He has the GL40, and you have some boxes as cover. Pepper him until you win. The very last fight is against Elliot Carver himself, and wow. This is akin to a pillow fight in tight quarters. Walk in with the launcher and punch this nerd's lights out.
Far from it, you ignorant fool!
You ignorant fool! Awesome acting. Well, that was Carver. Oh, there is one last aspect of the gameplay to talk about, and that's when you play as Wei Lin. For a brief period, we play as Chinese agent Wei Lin, played by the lovely Michelle Yeoh. It's funny to see this block of pixels executing civilians and think that years later she'd win an Oscar for Best Actress.
And the Oscar goes to Michelle Yeoh. All at once.
As a child, Michelle Yeoh studied to become a ballet dancer, and despite her illustrious career in action films, has no formal training in martial arts.
All right, so straight up, this level in Saigon is terrible. It goes on forever, and there are many things that can smoke you really quickly, leading to a level restart. Wei Lin doesn't do anything differently. No special gadgets, no unique attributes. It's just like playing as Bond, but with a Giny. What happened to her silly grappling hook from the movie? No upside down rappelling? No? There's a mini boss against this dude with a rocket launcher, which is a thing that happens, but at least it's better than Gas Man from earlier. It is really cool to find a secret area with a big stash of items, and I really wish the game had a lot more of this kind of stuff, and you're going to need these items. There is, evidently, the world's most badass news helicopter waiting for you, loaded with heat-seeking missiles. Your technique here is to not think too hard, just smother this thing in rockets and move on. The only other puzzle in the game, and I hate to even call it that, is this decryption minigame, which is basically a memory game that babies play with on a Fisher-Price toy. I wouldn't consider this much of a brain buster.
Far from it, you ignorant fool!
Alright, so the gameplay in TND is pretty rough. Like I said, I was a kid during this era, so I could kind of get with the program because I remember when gameplay like this was common. But man, if you're not big into PS1 gaming, you should probably skip this one. If it didn't have James Bond on the cover, I would never have even known it existed. The movement is pretty stiff, the gadgets are lame, and some of the levels have spikes of infuriating difficulty. Also, when you're done, that's it. The game asks you to try as 007. I won't. There are no bonus modes, there is no co-op, no multiplayer, nothing. I guess Black Ops had to scrap the multiplayer after the change in development. Again, great job EA, but there's nothing here. Look, again, I paid about $5 for my copy, so I didn't feel cheated, but if you bought this for $50 in 1999, man, I'm sorry. Whoa boy, that Pierce Brosnan texture. Oh man. So, like the gameplay, set your expectations for the presentation. These graphics are so 1999 that it hurts, but I love it. Look at that sweet orange pixelated goodness. I can feel the digital warmth, and that flat stare texture brings a little tear to my eye. Kidding aside, there are also some decent little effects like lens flare that help to sell the illusion of the otherwise primitive lighting effects. Now, they were able to get Pierce Brosnan's likeness, but that is most certainly not Jonathan Pryce. That looks like a villain portrait in a build engine game. Oh, how I love the build engine. The glass shatter effect looks surprisingly good for PS1, but it's crazy to think that Half-Life 2 released only 5 years after this. Some of the environments are very cozy, like the hotel in Hamburg. It's cool to be greeted by men with Kalashnikovs. Even the front desk staff is packing. Man, I know Germany made a few whoopsies back in the day, but let's calm down, fellas. And then there are levels like Hokkaido, which really are nice. There's just something about James Bond video games and snow that just mwah. And I do appreciate the little details like plumes around the NPCs' mouths when they exhale. I can't explain why, but I take such great comfort in levels like Saigon with cool lime green lighting and the plants clashing against the sharp geometry. Again, I can't really explain why, but it itches my brain. I also really love Bond's outfit changes throughout. In particular, I enjoy this smashing blue number, very stealthy. There are also little touches, like Bond's hurt animation. Now look, you can never ever miss the obnoxious 5th gen HUD, but bits of extra effort like this still go a long way. Look, overall, this game is dated to hell visually. I mean, of course it is, but the bright color palette, decent environmental lighting, and charming little effects like warm breath through cold air were all welcomed. To be completely honest, I'm a little bit biased because I'm kind of obsessed with PS1 style graphics, but this isn't some super low rent garbage either. The sound effects are stock standard, really nothing of note, and the voice acting is absolutely 1999 video game voice acting.
Look, I'm sorry what happened between us, but I need your help.
Don't expect much better than that. However, the music is excellent. Tommy Tallarico is credited as the main producer, but I was pleasantly surprised to see the name Sonic Mayhem on the list. For those of you not sure, this is the primary mind behind the Quake 2 soundtrack, as well as all the weapons sound effects for the original Unreal Tournament. If you're too young to know why that matters, you honestly missed out on a beautiful time. So the soundtrack here is wonderful. The Bond theme and its familiar notes are woven in with some fantastic original music, somewhat reminiscent of the Timesplitters franchise, which, as you may know, consisted of several former Goldeneye team members. Anyway, as I said, Tomorrow Never Dies on the PS1 had a tough act to follow with Goldeneye, which was still boiling hot in 1999. And the choice to go third person was interesting, not helped much by the asinine corporate decision to ditch the work Black Ops Entertainment had been doing in favor of slavishly following the beats of the movie, a movie that was already 2 years old at that point. Do I recommend Tomorrow Never Dies? No. But if you're a fan of Bond, PS1 games, or both, and I am, it might be worth one go to check that box. And hey, for what it's worth, you get to hear the M impersonator do this line.
His wife, Paris, might have some knowledge of his dealings. Perhaps you can pump her for information.
Hell yeah, M. Boo! So, Black Ops Entertainment was given another crack at the 007 franchise on the PlayStation, and this time they went back to the first-person perspective. Surely, their second crack at the series had to be better than the first. Right? The World Is Not Enough starts with another quick cut bang bang trailer, but with 90% less cheesy guitar. The story is primarily delivered through pre-mission briefings, and like Tomorrow Never Dies, clips from the movie it was based on. The pre-mission briefings are much more like Goldeneye this time, as opposed to just a little video from TND, and they got Dame Judi Dench's likeness here, but definitely not her voice.
You directly. If this occurs, evade the security system and track him down.
It sounds like a much younger person doing a respectful old lady impression. It's okay, but you know who they actually did get?
To help you defeat the metal detectors, I'm providing you with a very low-frequency disruptor. When activated, all metals within a 5-foot radius become undetectable.
Yeah, that's John Cleese as R. This is legitimately one of the greatest comedic minds of all time, so hearing the man himself was a welcome surprise. You can even hear the words battling to get over his false teeth. And they brought Moneypenny in.
James, do take care of yourself. And remember to bring me back a souvenir from the trip.
Well, that was useless. Where's the tension? Where's Samantha Bond? I mean, I guess it's something. There's also an occasional in-game cutscene, though that's being generous.
Bond! James Bond! For what do I deserve this great honor?
Something I love about The World Is Not Enough is the glorious return of PlayStation Robbie Coltrane. If you thought PS1 Hagrid was something, get a pike at PS1 Zukovsky. I love this character in the film Goldeneye, and I always enjoyed his arc in The World Is Not Enough. His appearance here is, well, it's not actually Robbie Coltrane.
Electra King. This kind of information doesn't come for free, even for you, Mr. Bond.
Holy moly, that impression. Well, at least you tried. So, I'll give you a super quick rundown of the plot, which, again, if you really want to get deep into, I suggest you just go check out the film, because the game cuts and curtails quite a bit, for obvious reasons. I should say that the film is much more nuanced than what I'm about to tell you, but this isn't a review of the film. So, I know people give the Brosnan films grief, and most of them are absurd, but I love them in all their cheesy glory. The plot here revolves around Bond and Electra King, the daughter of Sir Robert King, a billionaire oil tycoon and personal friend of M. Sir Robert is wiped out by a bomb via his lapel pin while visiting his money in a vault. Yeah, seriously. Turns out, King was assassinated by a terrorist, Renard. Renard had previously attacked King's oil pipeline and had abducted King's daughter, Electra, when she was younger. Renard had a bullet dropped in his brain by way of gun at the hands of another MI6 agent and doesn't feel pain as a result. He also doesn't get lead in his pencil, you know? Does the game incorporate this interesting factoid? Of course not. Okay, spoilers. Go watch the movie. Last chance. As it turns out, Electra was behind her father's assassination. She's suffering Stockholm Syndrome from her time with Renard, even quoting him to Bond at one point, unbeknownst to him. Renard wants to control the global oil supply via nuclear catastrophe. Smart. Basically, he's a Bond villain. Bond ends up working with Dr. Christmas Jones, played by the hottest woman in the world at that time. Seriously. Yada yada, Bond takes out Electra, saves M, takes out Renard, saves Dr. Jones, and then Bond has Christmas in Turkey.
Always wanted to have Christmas in Turkey.
What, you thought I wrote that line? Even I have my limits, gentlemen. We have to keep this classy. Then they Obviously, we're back in first person, but dual stick FPS gameplay wasn't common yet. All movement and looking is done with the left stick alone. Oh boy, okay brain, we have work to do. Look, I won't lie and say that this game feels surprisingly modern or anything. If you came up after console games were like this, it's gonna be jarring. But, like Tomorrow Never Dies, you can remap your controls, and with a custom setup and a little bit of patience, I got along just fine. So the objectives in PS1 Twine are pretty straightforward, and with only 2 difficulty levels, you don't get the mission variety that you would have had in Goldeneye. But there are a lot of positives as well. Firstly, Black Ops incorporated many more gadgets from Q Branch than in Tomorrow Never Dies, such as the VFL Disruptor, which lets Bond pass through this metal detector without issue. The cool part is, you don't have to use this gadget to progress. You could just break out the Walther. Choosing to use Bond's gizmos gives the player a touch of autonomy, and this is golden game design, and they don't hold your hand either. To be honest, I was a bit stuck late in this level, Courier. I wandered around for a few minutes, unsure of where to go. Then I thought back to Goldeneye and said, you know something, I should check my inventory. And there it is. Oh, and another very clever feature in this game is that you can toggle which items are in your real-time inventory, which is pretty brilliant for a console FPS. It helps to avoid scrolling through a dozen items before getting the one you want. Anyway, I used my fingerprint scanner on this thermos, which then allowed me to access thumbprint doors. TND had a fingerprint scanner, but it was boring and uneventful. Or use a satchel charge to find a hidden area. Lovely. It's pretty cool using the grappling hook watch to catch up to the cigar girl's hot air balloon. And getting a Bond stinger as you escape danger is perfect. Then you get some familiar gadgets for your feet. Oh boy, okay, first person skiing on the PS1. Deep breath, here we go. You know, it's not smooth, it's not mind-blowing, but I had a pretty decent time with this mission, and Bond can actually use his firearms this time, fancy that. I can't really complain. Yeah, great hiding spot, Elektra.
You dumb bitch!
And hey, how about a lockpick and a credit card? Watch how he takes it out, watch. Yow! Night Watch is the stealth mission, and this is the Q Branch special. A tranq dart, micro camera, telephone bugs, and that credit card lockpick once more. Bugging phones is simple fun. The only issue is, okay look, I love stealth games immensely. It's my favorite genre next to horror, but enemies wake up after a few seconds with the tranq dart. What kind of shitty dart is that, Q? The trick is, knock them out and then punch their lights out. Violence solved that problem, just so you know. You can also use environmental distractions to lure the guards, like radios or kettles, but honestly, it was more effective to just throw hands and move along. Even though the camera in Tomorrow Never Dies was plain and boring, the micro camera in Twine is awesome, using the little gadget to snap pictures of villainous documents while sleuthing feels just right. This is more like it. Some gadgets are a little bit less exotic, like using an ID badge to pass through an area. It's not fancy, but I love using tools to hide in plain sight, a la Hitman. In Flashpoint, you can use this ridiculous flashbang disguised as a mini flashlight. So much flash. It looks so silly running into a room and throwing a flashlight at the bad guys, but it's great. Bond also gets a little bit of night vision. He's no Sam Fisher, but it's serviceable. But you do get access to the magnetic explosive pen. The Q card also doubles as a Geiger counter somehow. It counts levels of ionizing radiation in this room. Chop chop, Comrade Dyatlov, head out. Alright, so I'm happy to see that Black Ops Entertainment really stepped up the gadgets from their previous game, and they hit the right mix of practical and absurd fantasy, just like Bond should do. And the weapon selection is better too. We established that the tranq dart basically stinks, as does the cell phone taser, but creeping through an area with the Walther, avoiding or shooting out cameras, felt pretty slick. I wish there was a visual indicator for the camera's radius, but it wasn't a big deal. Bond can lead around corners, which definitely helped and was surprisingly tactical for a game like this. There was a lean in Tomorrow Never Dies, but I never used it, so that's why I didn't mention it until right now. Anyway, I bombed this section at first, but on a replay, I was able to sneak through clean, like a whisper. It's not Thief, but it was satisfying. There's also a brief section where you take out the lights to slink by. Speaking of Thief, it got me thinking how badly I wish there was a Bond ImSim. A Bond game with emergent gameplay of some kind would be beautiful. But in the end, this is an FPS, so let's do some S-ing in FP. Thankfully, like Tomorrow Never Dies, the Walther is done justice. In this game, it's a P99. This is still a PS1 FPS, but with a little help from auto-aim, I really had a pretty good time with this one. There's also a big, obnoxious deagle called the IAC Defender. Plenty of power, plenty of BDE. We also have the Koffler KSS Sub, which is basically an MP5 SD2, the most beautiful firearm ever made. It's fun here, and I love the spitty audio, you know, that pfft, pfft. Yes, yes. The Frenzy Jackhammer is a solid shotgun, but the sawn-off side-by-side is whack, I hate to say. It's kinda weak, and the range is for crap. The goofiest name of a weapon is the G36K, rechristened as the AR-36 Sniper. I mean, I guess you could snipe with it, and, well, it's all you get, so... But a nice break from the action is in order. Now, typically Bond is a Baccarat player, but here it's blackjack. Probably to keep it simple for the children doing gambling in this game. Hey, do you want to know a fun story? GTA San Andreas cured a gambling addiction that I had in my youth before it could even begin. Yeah, so I lost an insane amount of money in one of the casinos in Las Venturas, to the point where I was in a deficit. When I stepped out into the street, I got a phone call from a proper menacing collector, and it scared me straight. Long story short, Grand Theft Auto prevents gambling addiction in developing minds. However, I do want to commit mass homicide. Anyway, this is blackjack, so it's kind of hard to mess up, but it was a lot of fun taking time away from the madness to have a little action at the tables.
Bad luck, sir.
But eventually you have to get back to doling out the lead salads, and the P90 is a fine choice. Well, that is when the dumb AI doesn't run in for a free meal, that is. Alright, I guess now's a good time to wedge in some flaw talk. Friendly AI brushing their teeth with your bullets is a start, but then there's rescuing hostages.
You dumb bitch!
Enemy NPCs have that chain reaction AI. You know, one guard gets alerted and everyone else instantly knows. Must be nanomachines. Anyway, this segment isn't too hard, it's just that speed and precision are not exactly a hallmark of PS1 FPS gameplay now, is it? But you adjust to the poo and you get through it. It is incredibly annoying when enemies post up inside of civilians. You can't bench press your way out of that one. Precision aiming is just very clunky, and the reticle resets itself after you reload, which can be irritating. But it's nothing a little Kalashnikov can't fix, hey? An AK with an underslung grenade launcher. Not much more to say. It's good, and it's standard, unlike a camcorder rocket launcher. Yeah, you heard that right. This thing is a blast, pun mildly intended, but it is. Taking down the forestry helos is actually a clever little segment. You lure the chopper over an outlet, and then you hit the steam with a flare. It's pretty smart, and it's much, much less annoying than the fight on the N64. Oh, just wait. But what are the other bosses? Well, there are a few. I suppose Davidov is the first one. He doesn't have a health bar, but he takes a ton of damage and is an actual character. Therefore, boss. Oh, and this is a Bond FPS, so you must have a train level. This old fella just sleeping through everything. There's another mini-boss with Bullion, aka Goldie. It's simple, but the fight against Gabor has some actual strategy. Pick up the bombs he throws your way and throw them back. Okay, so it's not that tricky. Huzzah! Then you one-shot the lady you once gave a ride to on your PPK. A true pump and dump.
Perhaps you can pump her.
The final boss fight, if you want to call it that, is against a reactor core and a bunch of jobbers. So once you finish the game, what's next? There are cheats to unlock, neato, but not multiplayer, no cooperative, nothing, again. Look, I can't imagine how pressed for time this team was. Movie games must be brutal in terms of deadlines, but the thing is, everyone wanted that Goldeneye money, but they didn't want to do that Goldeneye work.
I'm doing what I can, you know.
May I help you?
I'm here to see Lachaise. The name's Bond. James Bond.
So the Brosnan impression obviously isn't incredible, but it's solid and certainly an improvement from, well...
Satoshi Isagura.
I like the animation when Bond flips his little celly. It's shocking that this was cutting edge at one time. Despite the obvious limitations of the PlayStation, Black Ops did the best they could with texture variety. Little cracks on the wall, bits of crud and filth. Now, you'll see those textures repeated, but there's just enough diversity in each level to add character and flavor to each map. Of course, memory isn't infinite, so little effects like being able to break water coolers and the like aren't present, but this is pretty nitpicky. At least fire extinguishers rupture. Even more obvious flaws are the ones you'd expect, like clipping, but I never had any serious graphical issues or game-breaking bugs. The UI in the sniper mode reticle are almost identical to the one in Tomorrow Never Dies, but again, the deadlines must have been furious, so a few repeat assets here and there is totally forgivable. Some animations are stiff and a bit quaint, but the effort was there. And can I please mention how much I adore this waterside town pub environment? Of course I can. Bob Hoskins is still dead and I'm sad. Aged oak and stained glass, Churchill. The casino is similarly charming. This gorgeous painting, red and blue carpet with gold trim, green overhead lights and stained glass. I can smell the mahogany. If you've ever wanted to see Sophia Marceau in a garbage bag, here you go. Back on the topic of audio, it's cool to play a diegetic version of the Bond theme. Ah, yes. It reminds me of Max Payne 3. You know, I'm just looking for an excuse to reference Max Payne 3. Anyway, it sounds better than the Davidoff sound alike.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Man, I love this simple closet and all of its lovely little PS1 objects. You can't do anything with them or whatever, but I don't know, they're just pleasant to look at. As is the pool room. The bright lights, overhead pool table beams, colorful glass, and the pool balls decorating your field of vision with little dots of color. It looks a lot better than M's PS1 model, which looks peculiar.
I want to be ninja.
Christmas Jones here looks decent. No, that's a lie. This is bad. It's bad. But shooting a weapon out of a bad guy's hand is always good, and the interior of Maiden's Tower is honestly impressive for a 5th-gen console game. The blue and white checkered floor, heavy wooden doors, stained glass, and vaulted ceilings, it was giving me Thief vibes, which is about as high as my video game praise goes. The radar room in Meltdown is also visually striking. Blues, greens, screens, and angular geometry, the control room is filled with the lovely, warm, glowing waves of red and orange pulsing over the control panels. The graphics are obviously well past current. Nobody would mistake Twine for anything other than a PS1 title, but for what it is, it's a pretty enough game, and most importantly, it comes across as Bond. The music is decent overall, the important notes are all there, but it's not as good as Tomorrow Never Dies. Nothing really sticks out. The actors' impersonations are a little bit better, and the weapons/gadget sound effects hit the mark. Oh god, please reincarnate me as those shorts. Oof, you know, on second thought, I'd like to be a dog, please.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Now's a good time to answer this question. Do any of the 5th gen Bond games reach the lofty heights of Goldeneye 007? No, but The World Is Not Enough on the Nintendo 64 is probably the closest contender. So, as I said at the outset, I never played Twine 64 back in the day, and I quite wish I would have. I foolishly assumed that this was just another bargain bin cash grab made by the lowest bidder to make some of the Goldeneye cash, but I was wrong. Developed by Eurocom, The World Is Not Enough on the N64 sought to not only improve upon many aspects of Goldeneye, but to leave behind its own legacy. Did it succeed? I don't know. Why don't you watch on? So, if you just watched the Twine PS1 portion of the video, the basic storyline is the same, refer to that, but the way the story is delivered is a bit different. Hey, there's Charles Robinson. Kinda. Obviously, due to memory limitations, Twine 64 doesn't have the clips from the movie, and instead we get in-game cutscenes. Now here's our first improvement over Goldeneye. Actual voiceover in the scenes. Now, it's not like expert level voice acting or anything, but to be fair, this isn't incredible writing either.
Name. You still threaten me, even without your weapon?
As a result, the somewhat cheesy spy thriller stuff pairs well with the very early 2000s video game acting. And as poorly as N64 visuals have aged over the past 25 years, at least the scenes were well crafted and get across the basics of where Bond is and what he needs to do next. Like the PS1 version, Twine 64 is a streamlined retelling of the film's plot. Oh, and you want to hear N64 Hagrid deliver an iconic line?
Can't you just say hello, like any normal person?
Can't you just say hello, like a normal person?
I also like how Robinson gets 2 separate briefings for some reason. Make sure that he and Dr. Jones are still safe. Oh, hello again, James. Suffice it to say, story is hardly the reason you should go back and revisit The World Is Not Enough. Thankfully, the biggest improvements are in how the game plays. Right from the jump, a great plus for the Nintendo 64 version of The World Is Not Enough are the extra levels over the PS1 version. 3 levels, Underground Uprising, Midnight Departure, and A Sinking Feeling, are only on the N64, and A City of Walkways is broken up in 2 stages on this port, so 14 total levels over the PS1's 11. Also, I'm happy to say that a similar version of GoldenEye's difficulty structure is here. The easiest setting, Agent, gives the player a basic set of objectives. Medium difficulty, Secret Agent, ups the objective list. The hardest setting, 00 Agent, has all objectives while decreasing armor pickups, reducing auto-aim to basically nothing, adds in more enemies, and will throw in extra civilians into the fray. For instance, when things go tits up in Courier, this bank level here, you'll fight the usual henchmen, but there'll be armed guards interspersed on 00 Agent. These guards are trying to take Bond out, but you can't hurt them because they're just civilians doing their job. So juggling between lethal and non-lethal attacks while picking targets carefully is a big step up in challenge, and it honestly kicked my butt. If you do get trigger happy, the game flashes an obnoxious "mission failed" message on screen until you restart or die. I suppose it's better than an instant kick to menu. Thankfully, the N64 version also keeps the gadgets coming. In the first level alone, you'll use a keypad decryptor, an electronic scrambler to ruin security footage, a la Agent 47, a detonator disguised as sunglasses, and a safe cracker. Another thing I appreciate about TWINE 64 is how non-cryptic the objectives are. I love Goldeneye dearly, but it's easy to forget how vague and obtuse some of your missions were in that game. So, kudos to Eurocom for keeping things more straightforward. But oh boy, Eurocom, you brought back escorting, didn't you? Yep, you sure did. Anytime I think about escort missions in an N64 game, especially a Bond game, I shudder. Memories of a certain super adorable red-headed Russian, but much to my delight, it's relatively painless. I can't believe it. I'm actually having fun with an escort quest in a Bond game. And those emergent objectives are here, which helps to keep each level feeling organic and dynamic, despite the obvious scripting. Excellent. But don't worry, there is rage later. Here we see the Walther P99 and Magnum 44 in action. So another cool feature, by holding B and tapping Z, you can select an alternate mode for most weapons. You can attach a suppressor, activate a laser sight, go from full auto to burst, and so forth. Dynamic modifications for your weapons is always awesome, and this was 7 years before Crisis. God, can you believe it was only 7 years after this that games went from looking like this to looking like Crisis? Anyway, this also works for swapping wristwatch firing modes as well. Tight, but in general, the FPS mechanics just feel good in this game. I know the N64 controller was a bit strange, and I'm not saying that it should have become the standard or anything, and if you didn't grow up with early console FPS games, it would be really weird to play this. But I played a lot of Goldeneye, Turok, and even that god-awful South Park FPS as a little kid, so I picked this right back up. It even worked well with the right analog stick acting as the C buttons. At least I think it would. That's just a guess, as I played this on a real Nintendo 64, but of course. Okay, back on track. On the PS1, King's Ransom begins in the town, but here you're playing through the MI6 attack, and it's excellent. The Spaz 12 is here, and if you know anything about me, you'll know how much I love this weapon in video games. Thankfully, this thing is a ripper, and I wasn't disappointed. Cheers for that. The UMP-45, my favorite Battlefield 3 gun, thank you, is present and also done well. It's powerful, smooth, and has a nice bassy thump with each round. And who doesn't love the waterfall of brass from the ejection port? The Raptor Magnum is a tank in your hand essentially, and it really comes in handy when you need to take out bad guys quickly, especially in hostage situations. The SA-90 Sniper, modeled on the gorgeous HK MSG-90, is crisp and powerful. The sniper reticle is as basic as it was in Goldeneye, but when you have that sweet 7.62 punch, it's forgiven. I cannot, however, forgive the goddamn brain-dead AI walking right in front of my bullets again. Oh, for Christ! Oh, time to start the level over. Oh, 5th gen. At least the spear gun from Thunderball and Tomorrow Never Dies makes a cheeky appearance in the game. I tell you what, man, I love when Bond games have sort of guest weapons from movies throughout the franchise. The golden gun, the laser rifle from Moonraker, and here, the spear gun. And this thing is a one-hitter, which you're gonna need because the game gets quite difficult at a few points. Unlike the PS1, the N64 version of Twine has quite a bit of verticality. The PS1 version was essentially on one flat plane with a few minor exceptions. The N64, man, you'll have enemies up, down, and all around, and you have to be able to react quickly. Eurocom also added a jump button. It's amazing what a simple jump command can do to make an FPS more enjoyable. There are a few simple platforming challenges and a lattice to climb down a la Turok, but it's all very much appreciated. You know what else is appreciated? A MAC-10. Oh hell yes, buddy. Give me a tube system battle with armed scumbags. Give me the N64 version of John Mullins, buddy. I need it. I've never shot a MAC-10 in real life, and frankly it looks a bit impractical outside of a meter, but in movies and in video games, this weapon along with the short barrel Uzi are some of my favorites to play with. I guess things are more fun when the ammo and the consequences aren't real. Since you have flashbangs, it's quite tempting to try a non-lethal run on this stage, fist and tranq darts and the like. The flashbangs are handy during hostage rescues, but since it's a tad bit clunky to scroll through every item, it's honestly easier to be quick with the bullets instead. As cool as several of the gadgets are, however, the bomb defusal is lame. Push a button, wait for the meter to fade, push a few more buttons. It could be worse. It could be skiing.
Bitch! Bitch! Ah! Oh, shit! Where's my fucking glasses?
Alright, well, skiing on the PS1 wasn't awful, so let's see. Hey, so this is a bit more intense than it was on the PlayStation. This is closer to the snowmobile scene from the original Modern Warfare 2. No ski pole nonsense here. It is kind of annoying when you miss the required explosive barrels. But you know, with a little bit of practice, I ended up having a great time with this level. And then I played it on stream and made it look like I was naturally good. Night Watch is the stealth level on the N64, avoiding cameras and Elektra's big bodyguard, Gabor, as you sneak around the mansion grounds. You start in the private quarters. No Elektra on the bed in her garbage bag this time. You see, if there was a woman on the bed, it would imply that people made love. Now, gunning down hundreds of fathers, brothers, and husbands is cool, but don't be caught using your love gun, James. The watch has multiple modes, including the tranq dart, so the baddies do stay down a little bit longer than they do on the PS1, but not by much, so the old tranq punch combo still works a treat. If you get close enough with the taser watch, James will throw a punch automatically, and this is very effective. If you really want an advantage, use your X-ray glasses and just kind of wall hack. Hey look, don't feel bad. It's a stealth level on the N64. We're not talking about the metal age here. You go right ahead. Disabling security cameras can either be done electronically or by way of bullet, but either way, I love little stuff like this. But as I say, this is an N64 stealth segment. You have no idea of the noise that you're making. The enemy's field of vision is who knows what, and it can lead to some frustrating trial and error, to be honest. However, to be fair, even excellent stealth games have the old trial and error problem, and once you have your routine down and you execute a flawless run, sneaking through this large map with the use of all your fancy spy gadgets and so forth, the satisfaction is immense. And after all that sneaking around, Midnight Departure is a level that gives you a ton of ranged weapons in a wide open space, and basically just lets you play in the sandbox. Do you like dope scoped weapons? Well, of course you do. Here you go. The Delta 900 crossbow is a nice, quiet sniper. One bolt to the chops, asleep they go. The Deutsch M95 burst rifle has a nice high-powered scope, and it works just fine. But for some proper sniping, you need the SSG 3000, chambered in 7.62. You have to remember, zooming and sniping in Goldeneye was kind of a big deal in 1997, especially for consoles. By the year 2000, and especially now, 26 years later, it's obviously very elementary, but it's still satisfying to drop guards from a few hundred yards out. I also love how Bond loads rounds one by one. Nice touch. All in all, Midnight Departure is a great level and is paced well after the slow tempo of Night Watch. It's not all out guns blazing, but a nice reintroduction to taking life, you know. Masquerade is similar to its PS1 counterpart, using your ID badge to impersonate your way into the facility. And just look at that 64-bit cake. Merry Christmas, Christmas. Of course, using the grappling hook to escape certain doom is still a fun little gimmick. However, it's not as fun as dumping 5.7 at the bad guys. Hey now! The P90 doesn't have the zoom function like it did on the PS1, but it's still great fun. The grenade launcher, the GL40, and the RL-22 rocket launcher are fun to use against infantry. I do wish the rocket made that, like, red tail hawk screech that it did in Goldeneye, but you can't go wrong with explosives. That and the dumb AI will blow themselves up to try to get to you, so that helps. The segment in City of Walkways where you're dodging the saw blade logging helos while running and gunning is pretty great, man. And at this point, I was duly impressed with just how solid this game was, and I got kind of bummed that I missed out on it when I was a kid. Then the helicopter happens, and, well, stand by for some angry thoughts. The AT-420 Sentinel is a multi-tube missile just like the one that Arnie had in Commando. Also, Arnold is a snake, just ask Tom Platz. Anyway, the guided rocket fight against this chopper is so bad. I wanted to put a laser watch in my own mouth and end it. I legitimately reconsidered moving on to a different project because of this fight. It's such shit. I guess if you had a checkpoint right before the fight, it wouldn't be too bad, but oh no. Listen here, young one. This ain't your fancy new Microsoft Xbox 360 and MP3 player. Oh no, this is the N64, and you get to restart the whole level just to get back to the part that makes you extremely mad. It's not the overdosing of SSRIs and the absence of stable parents that caused my generational ruin. It was this. Anyway, Eurocom, it's called a checkpoint, f***er. Ever heard of one? And it's not that you have to deal with the awful clunky controls and just land 1 or 2 rockets to win. This helicopter takes 6 rockets. Did you think that was quite enough? Oh, and by the way, if you finally survive this garbage, they programmed in 2 more henchmen after the fight, just in case you got too comfortable with your victory. As much as I love older games, there are those bucket of ice water moments. You know, you're on that big long swing of nostalgia hanging from the childhood tree. You're enjoying the feeling of warm sunshine on your face. Mom's calling for dinner. And then some attack helicopter shows up and douses you with 5th generation cold water. The rocket launcher has this clunky, awful control scheme that could not have been play tested. You cannot convince me that this was play tested. The choppy frame rate barely keeping up with you. God, if only I knew that this rage was but a taste of what would come later. Oh, we're getting to that. In the meantime, the following mission, thankfully, brought me back. Turncoat is good. I love using the short-barreled Colt carbine with a carry handle and that classic triangular handguard. It's lovely and loud and has a high-explosive 40mm grenade launcher, which is nice. Fallen Angel uses the fingerprint scanner after you take out Goldie, right from the hand, not a coffee cup or something. Then there's a cheesy beginner's trap. This room locks, fills with gas, and you need to use your grappling watch to escape. Yeah, so when you know what to do, it's fine, but you won't on your first playthrough, and if you show up with half health after battling your way into this room, well, have fun restarting, idiot, lol. You get to use your laser watch to break M out of her cell, classic. Then you have a boss fight against Gabor. You simply beat the brakes off of him, and then the level ends the same way as the PS2, where Elektra holds M hostage and you have to one-shot her with the last weapon you had equipped. Boom! Woo! But at least the game didn't imply that these 2 adults might have had sex. A sinking feeling is the last N64 exclusive level, so after a few very aggravating alarms when trying to be crafty with my weapons, I found that you can literally just sneak off to the left here and board the sub easily. Save yourself some trouble. You destroy the steering controls and the sub just dunk. It's not a level that enhances the Nintendo port, to say the least. And then we head off to the final level, Meltdown.
It's big and black.
And, okay, let me put this level in context. Muddy N64 graphics, first-person swimming, a maze, and a time limit. Have fun! Look, I've been pretty high on The World Is Not Enough so far. Little blemishes, sure, but it's pretty great otherwise. Until now. I just don't have time for levels like this anymore. I'm sure there are those of you that can beat it blindfolded or whatever, and well, I'm happy for you, but I cannot sanction this. The trick here is to keep descending and follow the green lights. It sounds much simpler than it actually is. Oh, and I can't tell you just how fun it was to drown and struggle for 10 minutes only to be shot down by some random thug when you surface for air. I guess these guys were just, stationed here? They simply knew I was coming and they were that prepared? Guess who gets to restart the whole level again? You do! Look, man, I'm sure many of you miss the days of exploration and a bit of trial and error. You hate the modern day yellow paint and side character hints, and I kinda do too. But how about we have a goddamn arrow or something in the underwater N64 first-person maze level on a timer, hey? The controls are the big problem. Not only is it disorienting, but you have to stop constantly and manually aim for your heading, all while bashing into the hull and running out of both time and air. After a ton of trial and error and a very lame encounter with Reynard, I finally escaped. We get the cheesy Christmas joke and are treated to those gorgeous, soft N64 fireworks. So that's cool.
I feel nothing.
So the campaign ends on an utterly terrible final level, but the multiplayer lets you battle up to 3 AI bots. Goldeneye did not have bots, so this is another nice upgrade. Also, you can select the level of weapon detail that you'll see in-game. The lower the detail, the better their performance. That you can customize visuals to improve gameplay on a console game from 2000 is very impressive, especially as I recall the slideshow 4-player death matches from my Goldeneye days. Now you might be asking, why would I want to play a 26-year-old FPS by myself? And okay, that is a fair question, but I'll make a case. Firstly, bots aren't toxic, soul-draining parasites. Whoa, let me tuck that misanthropy back in my pocket there. Secondly, the bots are fast and aggressive. They're surprisingly engaging and fun to fight. I played this just to record footage, right? But I ended up having such a good time that I played an extra 30 minutes after. The weapons are fun to play with, and the maps are really well designed. It lacks that intangible charm that Goldeneye had, and I doubt I'd go back to this anytime soon, to be honest with you, but if you're having a rotten day and you need something to take your mind off of it, you could do a lot worse to take out 20 minutes. I really wish I could have played this as a kid. I feel like I would have had a great time with the boys. And hey, look at this character selection screen. You can play as Hagrid, Goldie, Turtleneck, old mashed potatoes face there, Baron Samedi with a loincloth, Leatherface, Black Oddjob, and Saruman with a golden gun. Oh, well, isn't that just some shit? Of course, as a musician and a YouTube guy, I love some lossless audio. The sonic experience in gaming is just as, if not more important than the graphics. But man, I have wicked nostalgia for the compressed, crunchy audio from the Nintendo 64. It's like the sound of childhood, and it was. That said, the music, effects, and acting are all about what you'd expect. The soundtrack is nowhere near as memorable as that from Goldeneye. I mean, it's not even close. But as I said earlier, having voice acting is a major step up from Goldeneye, and the acting isn't half bad. I really applaud Eurocom for going that extra mile. As the years go on, the luster of the N64 graphics dulls further and further, but like with the audio, I have massive sentimental attachment to this murky mess. I love the blocky character models and flat faces, and although the reflective floors and beaming lights are nothing nowadays, the graphics here are a step up from Bond's previous efforts on the console. They're quaint and a humble reminder of just how far we've come graphically. Even the weapons have actual reload animations this time. In Goldeneye, the weapons would simply dip off screen with a sound effect, but in The World Is Not Enough, every weapon has its own animation. Then we get to Judi Dench's character model. Woo-wee-oo. That's a handsome lady. But for all the obvious 5th gen smudgery, there are times when Twine is really quite impressive visually. Little environmental destructibility like posters coming down during battle in the tubes, and the train whipping by looks genuinely good. Not like photorealistic or anything, but the effect is quite convincing at a glance. Oh, and I love how Eurocom built actual fail cutscenes into the game. Failing to defuse a bomb isn't played for laughs. James doesn't come out with soot on his face. Nope, you failed your mission, and now you and a bunch of innocent people are deceased, mister. Good job, buddy.
You're a loser! Are you feeling sorry for yourself? Well, you should be, because you are dirt!
The hot air balloon looks gorgeous in this version. There's just something about primary colors on this console that hits just right. Same thing with the pool in Night Watch. The nighttime vibe, the gentle water physics, I can practically smell the fizz of chlorine. Pools, classic rich people shit, hey? Other spots of environmental lighting look great too. The water here isn't wave race good, but you'll see effects like bullet fragments skipping along the surface and a nice big splash when you dump some fool over a rail. And again, those reload animations clearly took a lot of work, and the results did not go unnoticed. Oh, and by the way, not only does this game look solid for its day, you can also choose between standard 4:3 or 16:9 widescreen. Now, Goldeneye also had these options, but it's still appreciated here. Not only that, but you can select a normal resolution or a high color mode, which looks a tad better, but it affects the performance. Again, graphics options on consoles are just now sort of becoming a thing in this latest generation, but were absolutely uncommon in the late 90s and early 2000s. Another great effect is the trail of fire that comes from ignited oil drums. It looks good, but then it also sets off other barrels, and the explosions are very nice, lush and beefy, like my ass. Many levels just click for me visually, and they're more fun to play around in as a result. This beautiful Turkish architecture with the N64 geometry and that endearing smudge. Ah yes. Seriously though, you could have the best gameplay in the world, but if the environments are boring and you don't care what you're looking at, there's a seam in the illusion. So having colorful, visually distinct levels is worth its weight in gold in my mind, as are quality animations. This one is cool. The enemy falls over the rail, but then attempts to rise up again with his last bit of strength before finally collapsing. Again, that extra mile. Love to see it. So obviously the audio-visual presentation in The World Is Not Enough isn't going to amaze you, but looking at it for what it was at the time, it's clear that Eurocom went above and beyond their predecessor. Eurocom really was a studio that deserved a lot more respect. They brought us Cruisin' World, the surprisingly good Hercules game, Duke Nukem 64, a solid port by the way, and Predator Concrete Jungle, a very underrated game from the 6th gen. The studio was an undersung workhorse, and I'll always celebrate their achievements, especially since they made a little game you might have heard of called 007 Nightfire, which is an all-time fan favorite. Some consider it the best Bond FPS ever. But that's a story for another time, now isn't it? Old games can be hard to play sometimes. They have this sentimental charm since these are the types of games that I had as a kid. This nostalgia tends to clash with the sometimes baffling design choices and unforgiving consequences for the most minor of failures. The Bond games on the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 are no different. Even the illustrious Goldeneye 007 has its share of nonsense, to be sure. But that said, I'm so glad that I finally got to check these games off the list, so to speak. I love the Bond films, warts and all, and I played hundreds and hundreds of hours of Goldeneye. So to go back and try the games that I missed all those years ago felt a bit like coming full circle. Will I go back and play these games again someday? Honestly, outside of like a stream or something, I doubt it. But I absolutely don't regret starting this video series finally, and I can't wait to follow through with several more parts. Even in the rough patches, there's just something about James Bond and video games coming together that works so well. The PS2, Xbox, and GameCube era, the 6th generation, is where most people consider the games to have peaked. Until then.
Ah, Satoshi Isagura.